Hey there, it's Susan Pierce Thompson and welcome to the weekly vlog. So a short time ago, I got to be on Zoom for an hour with one of my intellectual, heroes sounds like too strong a word, but just someone whose work I've really loved and benefited from for years. His name is Tal Ben-Shahar. He's the author of the book Happier. I think he wrote The Pursuit of Perfect, several other books as well. And he's a positive psychology professor. And he was my positive psychology professor. I took his course online from the University of Pennsylvania back in 2008, 2009. And that became the foundation of the positive psychology course that I taught for many years in college, as well as the Brightline Mind course that we offer every now and then here in Brightline Eating. So it just was a fluke that I got to meet him. It turns out that he's close friends with someone I'm close friends with, and we got introduced and we spent an hour together in Zoom. And during that session, he shared something with me. I don't remember what the context was, but he shared this Spanish proverb with me. And the moment he said it, my mind went, and I just knew that it was going to be a vlog topic. So here, I'd never heard this before. Have you heard this? Okay. Ready? It's a Spanish proverb and it goes like this. God says, take what you want and pay for it. God says, take what you want and pay for it. Ooh, I love that. And it so relates to our Brightline Eating journey. But I mean, it just relates to life. So let's think, young adults starting out in life, right? There are the young adults like I was when I was a young adult who decide to experiment with all kinds of things, right? Cigarettes, drugs. Take what you want and pay for it, right? There's consequences to those actions, as I well learned. And there's consequences on the other side too, right? If you don't try a bunch of things, those are a bunch of experiences that you don't have, right? But on the flip side, if you choose to be diligent and disciplined in a certain domain, let's say as you're a young adult coming of age, you decide to develop expertise in a sport, and train really, really hard. You might end up going to the Olympics. You might end up being really exceptional in some physical domain of endeavor. Fabulous. Take what you want and pay for it. There's going to be a lot of hours of payment. The investment in that path is going to be high. Take what you want and pay for it. So I'm thinking about Brightline Eating. Around this time of year, a lot of people are experiencing the consequence of how they navigated the holidays. Some folks decided to navigate the holidays with Brightline Eating sort of squeaky clean and really detached from the food. Thanksgiving is just a Thursday. Christmas parties, I can, eat my dinner before I go and just don't eat anything there. I can call ahead and find out what's going to be served in terms of protein and produce. See if I can navigate it. I'm going to stay bright. I'm not going to have any alcohol over the holidays. I'm going to just stick to my bright lines precisely. Other people choose to deviate through the holidays here, there, decide to try, moving their food plan around on a holiday to see if they can, have foods that are a little bit yummier or whatever, or just outright decide to break their bright lines. And often this time of year in our programs, we're experiencing coaching people who, got off track during the holidays, right? Which typically means that they made choices up front at some point to decide to deviate and then sometimes find that it's not as easy to get back on track as they expected, and now their weight's crept up and etc., right? So that's just one example of how it applies to Brightline Eating. I think that in general, the approach to Brightline Eating that someone can take really exemplifies this Spanish proverb, because you can sort of decide that what you want to take is the full bright body transformation, just full freedom from obsession and compulsion with food, shedding all your excess weight and living in your ideal bright body, and really feeling free from food cravings and, just living that life. The investment to do that is, letting go of sugar, letting go of flour, putting your food on a digital food scale. The payment, take what you want and pay for it. Learning how to meditate, setting up a morning routine, setting up an evening routine, joining a mastermind group, getting a buddy, committing your food, all those things, right? That's the sort of, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical payment for, taking what you want from the Brightline Eating transformation. And on the other side too, if you decide that you want to see if you can have some alcohol once a week, have a glass of red wine on Friday nights, if you want to see if maybe you can keep drinking diet soda, if you want to see if, fill in the blank sort of if you can go on a cruise and, eat what you want for that week and then get back on track. When you get back, you can take what you want there and pay for it, right? You can discover what those consequences are going to be for you. And whatever they end up being, you will pay them. It's so interesting because with addiction in the mix, I think the worse the addiction is, the more the disconnect can be between the experiment that you run and what the payment might end up being. Meaning, if you're not addicted at all, then eating some sort of food, let's say you eat a cookie or whatever, but you're not addicted, the payment for that is going to be completely commensurate with that cookie, like however many calories that was, however, whatever. It sort of stops there. The consequence ends there. The more addicted you are, the more it might be that, let's say you had several years of squeaky clean bright lines under your belt, you ate that one thing, it might be that you then struggle for years, right? And so the payment downstream can be completely outsized for what the particular action or deviation was, which I think is an interesting feature of the natural consequences that are described by that proverb. Take what you want and pay for it. If you've got addiction in the mix, the payment can sometimes be quite severe. There are other areas in life where that's true, though. I'm just thinking about sex and babies, right? I don't know that two teenagers, when they're getting together, take what you want and pay for it, right? They know what they want, and it seems like one night of passion and pleasure is one thing. But if a pregnancy comes from that one night, the payment might be completely outsized compared to what actually was done that one night. And so sometimes life just delivers outsized consequences. And, you may or may not be ready for that. Take what you want and pay for it. I've been thinking about this so much. In America, over this last weekend, we had the Super Bowl, and it made me think about sports, and it made me think about, exceptional achievement in the domain of sports. And I was raised in San Francisco in the 80s, came of age in the 80s, and then the 90s, Jerry Rice, Joe Montana, Steve Young. I got to watch some great football growing up for my own home team. It was just a fabulous part of my childhood. And Jerry Rice in particular, he was a particular kind of athlete. He was incredibly humble, incredibly hardworking, and he's got records on the record books today that it just looks like, I don't know who's going to break those or when, but they stand by a lot. And, he took what he wanted and paid for it. Like, he was the first one on the field, the last one off the field. He ran those drills hard every time. He didn't complain. He showed up. He did his work. Yeah. Success leaves clues. It really does. And in Brightline Eating, the folks who are living bright, really peaceful with their Brightline Eating life, they have paid for it with certain patterns of behavior, certain investments in this way of life. And and those who decide to sort of game the system, play the angles, there's ways that gets paid for as well. I get asked sometimes on podcasts, after people hear what Brightline Eating is about, they're like, oh, well, yeah, not everybody sort of is willing to do that or wants to do that. What do you say to convince people who maybe, don't feel like they want to give up their sugar and flour? And I just laugh and I say nothing. Like, I don't aim to convince them at all, right? I think it's actually a perfectly fair trade. I've always thought that, right? If someone wants to watch TV late into the night eating snacks and they just look me in the eye and they say, I don't want to give that up, I say, fine, like, great. I have no issue with that, right? Brightline Eating isn't for everyone who needs it. Brightline Eating is for people who want it and are willing to do what it takes to get it. Take what you want and pay for it. That's the weekly vlog. I'll see you next week.